For our parents' generation, it was very much a case of you remember where you were when you found out that JFK had been assassinated. For our generation, it's more on the lines of you remember where you were when you found out that the Twin Towers had been hit. On the 11th of September 2001, the world as we knew it changed forever. An unthinkable horror had unfolded live on TV for the entire planet to see. Simultaneous attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, were carried out with pinpoint precision. Flight 93, carrying 44 souls abroad, was also brought down in Pennsylvania the very same morning. 2,996 people perished as a result of that day. But the repercussions and the ripple effects were felt globally for many years afterwards. The attacks to date remain the deadliest terror act in world history. Today, on the 20th anniversary, we're going to be discussing one of the most shocking events in modern history. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sore Subjects. We are here with the boys as usual. We've got Kane, Magic Nick, and the ever-reliable Mr. Ryan Underwood. Welcome. So I guess, to start with, I certainly remember where I was. I actually found out, because of obviously time zones and things like that, I found out in a really peculiar fashion. I was crossing the road, it was a zebra crossing. A friend of mine at the time, he just turned around and he said, "Oh, have you heard about New York?" And I'm like, "What? No." And then I obviously ran to the TV, and I just couldn't believe it. I was glued to the TV for hours after that. It was just, I remember it so vividly.
Well, how old were you then?
I was 21.
Yeah, see, because you're a little bit old. He's a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
So I remember coming home from school, and I was probably about 13. I come home from school, I come in, and my mum and dad were sat on the settee watching and glued to the telly. And I'm like, "What's up? What's going on?"
Yeah.
And they went, my dad just went, "It's war. It's war, son. There's going to be World War III here." And I went, "What?" I'm 12 at the time. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really didn't. So I walked in, I'm like, "Oh, what is it?" It's only as I've got older, I've realised sort of
The gravity of what happened.
What actually
that age, you
happened.
don't really realise.
Yeah, so I didn't know, but I specifically remember, and I come in and I seen it, and I looked at it. My dad went, "I watched it live." He watched it live when it happened. It went to, they thought it was an explosion and whatever. He said that he saw the plane go into the building. He watched it happen. He saw it on the screen, and he said that it was one of the most unreal things to witness he's ever seen. And I can only imagine watching it. I sat watching it on YouTube myself. Like, there's like an 8-hour clip of where they're introducing.
I can't watch it.
The news of the day, and it's just like, the weather today is going to be bright and sunny, and then we're just having live reports, and then there's just 8 hours of it, and then just even then watching it is unreal.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you guys?
Well, when it happened, I would have been 8 years old. So.
Well, you don't remember when you were 8?
Well, I don't remember things like that. When you're 8 years old, you're playing in the street.
Yeah, no, I know.
You don't watch the news. You literally watch Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and you go out with your mates.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, you've got to bear in mind, Nick, at 8 years old, was in the UK, probably was never even thinking about America.
Yeah, no.
Or what was going on over there. To an 8-year-old in the UK, it's not asked.
Well, you say go like out playing. I mean, the youngest one here, I was 6 when it happened. I just have a vague memory of being out, seeing there was my parents used to own a bar, and I remember there was a shop nearby, and I remember they had a TV like up in the corner. I just remember seeing it on there, didn't know what it was, didn't understand it, but it's still weirdly stuck in my head, that visual of that happening.
I remember getting
on
the papers in the morning. I remember going to get the papers in the morning. I got sent to the shop, go and get the paper, and I remember just the aftermath on the front page of every
plastered on everything.
page.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it was. Every country.
And I just remember that vividly. That and getting like Pokemon cards, and that was it. But it was everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It really was.
I mean, my assessment that it changed the world forever, it did.
Of course it did.
That event changed the entire planet forever.
Yeah.
Well, think about airports now.
It's just different. It's just different now. It's the world before 9/11 and the world after 9/11.
The amount of security they have at airports now, that was never the case before.
Yeah.
They didn't have all that.
I remember a few years back, I went to New York and I went to Ground Zero, to the memorial there. And I tell you what, it is one of the most eeriest places I've ever been. Like a super heavy ambience there,
Really?
like very, very somber. Like it's very difficult to describe unless you go there. But yeah, it's you've really felt it, and I can only imagine, for New Yorkers how that must feel when they go there,
100%.
especially if they've got people that they knew or relatives and stuff that have been killed as a result of that. I mean, it's shockingly sad, that area, but I'm glad I went there, obviously, because it's quite a poignant moment in world history.
There's also the thing as well. So I mean, there's a lot of theories around it, right? So there's a lot of conspiracy theories around it. So to go
It's probably
there,
one of the biggest ones, isn't it? Is 9/11.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest
Sure.
conspiracy theories there is.
So to go there and have, I mean, okay, so I have a belief. Dave? What's your belief on it now? You've been there.
Yeah.
So.
And you're
belief on
also
it?
older than any of us were when it
Yeah.
happened.
I'm hugely skeptical of the official story. I'm hugely skeptical because there is so many things that when you put them all together, you go, hang on, that doesn't seam right.
Yeah.
One of the main things that I struggle with, now we could literally sit here for 4 days on the trot
course.
and argue about whether or not an airplane hitting a building would make it fall down.
Yeah.
Right, we could, right? Whether it's the structure that had been tampered with and stuff like that, whether it's possible jet fuel melting the beams, we could go on forever about that, and it's a debate that I don't think ever will have an end.
No.
However, my biggest problem with it is,
What's your belief? Do you know what I mean? You have a.
I think it's an inside job.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Inside job,
the government were in on it.
Okay.
All right.
I second that.
Yeah, I am of that belief as well. In a sense of there's a few questions that I have that just don't add up.
But the thing is,
I think a lot of questions. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, right. So, my stance really is, I don't think it was. Although to be fair, because I never thought it was, I never did the research anyway. So I've said this. If I find out tomorrow that it was, I wouldn't go, oh damn, they've proven me wrong. Because you're not proven, because I didn't do the research.
No, there's no right or wrong.
So for me, it would be, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So
well, I was very on the fence about it the whole time. I then really had an in-depth conversation about it. But after doing a lot of research, the things that I found, not just what people are saying, statements from officials and photographic evidence, I'm very, very strong on the idea that it was an inside job.
Yeah, I mean, the problem that we've got is an event like that happening all of a sudden gets this massive stigma attached to it being a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody says they don't believe the official story was accurate, immediately you're thought of as your cuckoo, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
That's not fair, because there are genuine points to bring up that don't add up. Come on. I'll tell you one of them for me. All right. So you've got 2 buildings, they were hit by aeroplanes. All right. In New York City. They both fell in on their footprint. Now, if that happened to one building, that's a rare occurrence. All right. For that type of building to fall in on its footprint. 2, very, very rare. There was actually a 3rd building, World Trade Center 7, that wasn't hit by any plane. It was hit by debris and things like that, but it fell in on its own footprint.
Yeah.
So you're telling me 3 buildings in the same moment, or the same morning, or whatever, the same day, all 3 of those buildings fall in on their footprint?
Yeah, because I saw footage on this. Have you actually seen footage of this?
Well, I've got footage.
Have you actually
for
got
you guys to watch?
Have you got it?
So just go before we have a look at it. I'm going to show you 2 videos.
Okay.
And I understand where you're going with the idea of like how can it drop on itself, and people speak about the controlled demolition. I do believe this building 7 you're talking about was controlled demolition, but I don't believe the actual towers were brought down by.
Well, I suppose the way you can look at it, you say, well, it's very unlikely that, but those
Because-
two buildings were built the same way. They were built in the same way. I mean, they were pretty much identical.
Let's have a look at this video.
Yeah,
Were they pretty much identical? So the fact that they fell in the same way isn't completely out of.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I didn't really want to like focus on the two buildings that
It's
were here.
more. It's more the other.
It's the other
Yeah.
one that
Right.
I'm.
That you're sceptical about.
Yeah.
That's- yeah.
Well, first of all, let's just look at the way. This is the second tower that went down. So let's just look at the way this goes
So
down.
just if you are listening on Spotify, this is all the more reason to watch us on YouTube as well. So you'll be able to see the video. So go on, Nick. Sorry, go on.
Right.
So it's coming down from the top downwards, okay?
And you're looking at something that's at free fall rate,
Yeah.
which right.
It's very.
For it to fall down at free fall like that, straight down, means the material underneath it needs to be removed for it to fall that speed down. Okay.
Yeah.
To remove material of brick and glass and mortar and everything else and metal, the only way to get that out of the way quick enough for it to fall straight down at free fall rate is explosives. I'm sorry, it is.
The only problem is, right, so a controlled demolition, a building should come down from bottom, so the bottom will drop and you'll see the top of the building drop down and then crumble down, okay? The issue is this has gone down from the top to the bottom, okay, in platforms, right?
That's called pancaking.
If it was controlled demolition, those dynamites that were being placed in that building would have exploded a long time ago before.
They said it was thermite, didn't they?
Right.
They said that.
But that would have those dynamite, the thermite, whatever they put in those buildings to supposedly control, take it down.
Bring it down.
The heat and the fire going on that building was going on for what, 18 minutes, longer than that. That would have, the explosions would have gone off way earlier, a lot earlier. That would have just set them straight off.
Because a lot of people, there's people that say, well, I heard an explosion when I was in there. Yeah, but well, the explanation they give behind that anyway is that the lifts that were in there
Yes,
dropped. Because they would have, I mean, the cables.
Do you know how the
destroyed,
lift
and they dropped.
system was? Do you know how the lift system was worked in the Twin Towers?
No.
So the lift system, because they were too tall, the buildings were too tall to just have one elevator going all the way up. They modelled the lift system on the underground, so like the London Underground.
Okay.
So rather than one lift going all the way up, they'd have
various.
They'd have a level here
Right.
where people could interchange at the most important levels. So here they'd have a level go up, and then you could change and go from there, and you could take an express. So they could have an express from bottom to top that wouldn't stop.
Right.
And then so they'd said that all the thermal, all the fire and stuff come through those chambers and drop down, which is what took over the chambers.
Yeah.
I agree with Dave on this, right? I believe that something happened in the two towers. What fucked it up for me, what was a big thing for me, is this building 7, because in that building 7, who was it? Who was it that was in
The
there?
tenants of Building 7, right?
And they have CIA in there.
Right,
as well.
honestly, it's just so shady. Right, I've got a list here of some of the tenants. So you've got a secret department of the CIA were in there. Where are we
Secret
going? Right,
department
so
CIA.
you've got the Solomon Brothers, which is a bank. You've got the Secret Service in there. You've also got the Securities and Exchange Commission. Also, yeah, like I said, you've got a secret office there operated by the CIA.
So basically all the CIA's documents and things like that would have all been taken away, right?
Well, this is going back to the way the building's pulled down. So now, this building 7, I do believe, and this was brought down by
Controlled
demolition.
Yeah.
So have a look at this one here, and look at and from the first video to the way this building goes down.
Right.
It's very short, but
See that kink at the top when it starts to drop?
That's it.
Watch the kink. That is.
and look as the building travels down. Okay, it travels
Yeah.
down from bottom. The top is still intact. The Twin Towers, the top It's not intact.
Fell off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how if you watch any controlled demolition, it would always go from the bottom and it will come down on itself like this.
I'll read what I found.
But just before you go into that, I do have one other video to
Okay,
show you.
go
That
ahead.
was actually a.
This is also building 7.
Exact same building 7, but a reconstruction that
Okay.
engineers have done of it.
Okay,
So it shows you a little bit more in depth, and you
Yeah.
can sort of see the inside of it as well. So here we are.
So it's falling inside.
So yeah, it's showing that the insides are actually falling apart.
Well, you see that?
But then it also does go down in a different direction as far as the way it actually
that
did go
topples
down.
differently to how it actually does.
And it goes on to show you this version as well. You can see.
Do you know what they say? Do you know what they say caused it? Do you know what the official record was?
Fires within offices, but
From the debris that's
Yeah.
fallen and gone into the. There's no fucking way.
But the thing is, the official story on what caused it, okay, apparently the fires within the building of World Trade Center 7 burned for hours, okay? The building didn't fall until late afternoon, 5 something in the afternoon, right? Hours and hours after the morning attacks, right? However, for a building to collapse like that,
Yeah.
it would mean every single, and there was like 50 of them, supporting beam would have to fail exactly the same time.
Well,
Yeah.
So this is the study. This was done by NIST, so NIST.
Just to let you know, before you carry on with NIST, do
Yeah.
you know that department was actually, they were brought in to investigate the story of what happened that day and everything else. They were actually brought in by the Bush administration.
Oh, you know, of
so
course.
it's
I
them
understand
investigating themselves.
But still, going off what they did say. I mean, again, okay, you can say that, but this is what they found
So
anyway.
this is the official story.
So, according to NIST, there was one primary reason for this is Building 7. One primary reason for the building's failure. In an unusual design, the columns near the visible kinks were carrying exceptionally large loads, roughly 2,000 square feet of floor area for each floor. So what their preliminary analysis showed was that if you take out just one of those columns on one of the lower floors, Sunday notes, it could cause a vertical progression of collapse so that the entire section comes down.
Yeah.
And there are 2 other possible contributing factors that they found as well.
That's a lot of fucking risk though to do that.
Well, yeah.
That's a lot of risk to build a building like that has so
of course.
much
It's also
importance.
It's also worth noting that NIST, all right, their official report, okay, back in 2008, they did a review on the report and then they published their findings and everything like that. I think back in 2014, there's a group of engineers and architects. I think it's AE 9/11 Truth or something like that. That's an organisation that's been set up by about 3,000 individuals. All right, and they have called for NIST to do another review because you've got 3,000 individuals here that specialise in architecture and engineering and things, that they don't see how it's possible that NIST have come up with that explanation and they want it to be reopened, and there's they're pressuring the government and all that kind of stuff to reopen because them being experts in that field, they don't buy that story and they're saying, well, it doesn't. Things don't walk off of their head.
I tell you the biggest thing that I've seen, which is it was just a picture, right? So I mean, there's no actual research done. You know the massive explosion in Lebanon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the hotel that was literally right next to it? That was, I mean...
So one half of it was gone.
One half of it was gone, right?
The other half was still standing.
Half of that building was gone and the other half was still standing. How is that possible? There was 100,000 megaton worth of an explosion that's hit this hotel that is nowhere near the size of the Twin Towers, nowhere near as structurally well built as the Twin Towers, or maybe even Building 7, and that fucking thing's still standing. But 3 buildings on the same day go down. I mean, when I saw that photo, please get that photo up and put that on there so people can see. It was Lebanon, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The explosion.
Yeah, it was Lebanon.
That is
The thing is, Nick, you need to get your dice out again and roll that 1 a billion times over. Right? For 3 buildings to fall in on their footprint the very same day in the very it's just statistically ridiculous, right?
No, I get that, but like I say, I do believe the building 7 is controlled.
We like I said at the very beginning, we could sit here and argue until the cows come home about the other 2 because they were hit by aeroplanes. Yeah, right. We could argue. All right, I'll give you that. They could have fallen in on themselves because they were both designed at the same time, and this exactly the same buildings, more or less. All right, but the 3rd building, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. I'm just not. No. All right, I've got a picture here. I think you two have seen it. You may not have seen it. The viewers at home, you'll definitely see it. Nick will put that up. So here you've got basically this is the aftermath. All right, so you've got where the twin towers are there. So this is building 7. All right, so it's separated from the others. There's another building which I believe is building 5 in between it, sandwiched in between it. Right, so if you look, that's building 7, empty, completely leveled, all right? And then that one there is building 5, but it's not completely leveled. Why, if it's due to falling debris and fires, is that one still partially standing? That one just looks like you've removed the entire building.
I suppose the only way, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an expert. The only way is obviously the angle of how the stuff may have fallen onto the building. It might have missed the one in the middle.
Going over the top.
That's again, I don't know that.
No, but it's a logical. It's a logical.
I can understand where you're coming from with that thought process, and yes, you've got a point there. But the official story from NIST is it was brought down by fires. Surely they both have identical fires if they're both buildings next to it, right?
Also, engineers state, like the professional state, it's not normal for a fire to bring down a building.
Not in that manner.
Buildings are designed, especially these buildings, they're designed in a way to deal with fire, deal with flames. And the only possible, what they spoke about, the jet fuel burning hot enough to melt the beams or anything like not melt them, but warp the beams in the tower.
That's exactly what I was going to.
That was with a jet fuel fire.
Yeah.
The fire that would have been existing in that building would not be a jet.
There's no jet fuel there.
No.
Well, it wasn't even. So with the 2 towers, the whole thing of jet fuel does it. It wasn't even just jet fuel. It was also that what people say is because there was the claim of jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's right. But it wasn't just jet fuel either. It was also the stuff that was inside the building. So you have fucking carpet, you have chairs, you have tables. It all burns. And exactly what you said. It didn't melt them. It just it warped them.
Right.
It made them
bend. And they did prove this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's absolutely right. Yeah. That is absolutely.
I did watch a video and they put this to the test, albeit they did use a thinner beam.
Yeah.
But
and
they did
also
it
also the planes flying in would have knocked off some of the
coating.
Coating that protects the beams as well.
So there is a possibility they did warp. But and the thing is, well, where the planes hit, you've got I don't know how many stories above that. That is a lot of weight. It's like well over 100,000 tons of weight sitting on top of that. And if that floor, or actually weren't just one floor, those numerous floors that were taken out, that's a big gap, and that's a lot of weight. And then if that comes down, that certain drop, it is enough impact to push down.
I mean, here you go. I mean, so it says jet fuel burns between 800 to 15,000 Fahrenheit. So it says steel loses about 50% of its strength at around 1,100. So I mean that's 50%.
Yeah. So you can see that it's just for it to happen. It's the building 7 that's got me.
That's a smoking gun for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Of course. And that's something that.
There's also, but I tell you what. Let's go back to the Pentagon.
Yeah.
See, this is something I don't know. I didn't do any research on this side
the
of
Pentagon
things,
is another one that any rational person looking at that is going to say, "Hang on a minute, an aeroplane's gone through there.
Yeah.
What happened to the wings and the engines, and why is there only a hole that a rocket would make?"
Also, Dave, you might be able to tell the viewers because I haven't looked too much into it. What goes on in the Pentagon?
Pentagon is basically the base of all the security of the United States. Okay. All right, so all the militaries run out of it. It's basically the brain of the defence.
Isn't it where the red button is to go to war?
No, because the
White
red
House,
button is carried in the football, which is basically a briefcase that that is carried by Secret Service personnel that always follow the president around.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So he can press the button from wherever he is on the planet,
Oh, wow,
if
okay.
need be. All right.
Is that an actual button, do you think, or is it just it's
codes and everything like that.
It's a figurative button that he goes right, press
Yeah.
the button.
Actually
Right,
watched.
okay.
But go on,
Oh, go on,
just
sorry.
because you were talking about the Pentagon,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
I stopped you. So
Yeah, carry on. So
Yeah. So you'll.
about saying a plane.
Yeah. So the official story is another hijacked plane veered off, did a manoeuvre that all pilots that have spent any time in the air flying said that plane can't do that manoeuvre.
Yeah, it come in
The way that it
and
comes
around like that.
we're talking about a passenger jet, right?
Yeah.
Massive plane doesn't do those manoeuvres. It doesn't. It's not possible.
Yeah.
The plane couldn't take it. All right. So that already goes. That doesn't seem right. And then all of a sudden, you've got a really grainy video where it's just a flash and bang, there's a hole in the building, right?
Yeah, and you'd think at the security, the highest point of security, there's only
At the
one camera.
Pentagon.
At the Pentagon, there's only one camera available.
Right. So I remember from years
Fuck.
back, there was somebody brought it up that there was another video footage across the road, a petrol station, a gas station, but the very same day when it happened, somebody from the government went over there and confiscated, and it's never seen the light of day.
Also,
all right?
the manoeuvre you're talking about as being very difficult for a plane to go down. The person that actually trained the suspect, what's the word I'm looking for?
Terrorist?
The suspect terrorist
Yeah.
that was piloting the plane.
Terrorist.
Yeah, just use that word. He said that his flight skills were so bad. He said he would not have ever expected this guy
To even pass.
to even have a license.
Wow.
And the idea of him making that manoeuvre is just ludicrous.
Yeah, so you've got the official story and what they expect the public to swallow and accept as truth, where, I'm sorry, I've seen the picture of that hole and an aeroplane. A passenger jet
Yeah.
didn't make that hole, right? And if it did make that hole, where are the wings and where are the engines?
Have you ever seen, right, and this is again another thing, have you ever seen a plane, so the front of a plane, that's ever been hit by a bird in midair? It's dented to fuck. There's nothing left of it.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
nothing left of it. So
yeah.
you're telling me that this plane has hit the Pentagon, gone through everything, and then come out the other end?
Yeah, 'cause there's a hole on the
Not
other
a
side.
fucking chance.
Yeah.
That's the hole.
Yeah.
The entry isn't that. That's the exit hole.
Yeah.
That's not the entry, that's the exit. There's no way a passenger jet has come down, hit everything, and then the front of the plane has survived and gone through. No way. If it
Yeah.
hits a tiny little bird in the air, it just uses a massive dent in the middle of the nose.
And I stand by my argument on this. If that is really what happened, why can't we see footage showing that it happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Why is there just a really grainy video with a flash? There's a massive hole, big explosion. I'm sorry, that's a cruise missile that went through there, in my opinion.
The thing that gets me as well is why?
yeah,
Why?
I'm glad you asked that.
Why?
I'm glad you asked that because they, in my opinion, they needed an event so disgusting that they would get the entire planet on board with them to go to war.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
You think?
They wanted to go to Iraq.
Well,
They wanted to go to Iraq.
well, they did.
For numerous reasons. One of them being allegations that they are stockpiling missiles. So they wanted straight away to invade that for the oil
Yeah.
that you were mentioning
Yeah.
earlier. And but then they've done this before. There's missions that were going to be carried out before, about with Cuba. They wanted to stage events. One of them was to blow up a ship by Guantanamo Bay or attack the US forces there. And just to create something, but blame it on the Cubans, just to create that divide so everyone gets on, the US side about everything. So it's not unusual for them to do something like that.
Well, no, I mean, I think we can all agree. I was going to say the US government, but governments in general do horrible things, have done horrible things. I mean, I saw earlier today, was it that the US, the drone strike in
Kabul.
In Kabul, that was
Yeah.
right. Killed
Family of 11
killed
or what?
children. It's killed, and that's
Is that US?
that's the US. And this is the thing. the US can, and again, most countries can sit there as much as they want and say these terrorists from these countries. The US has done a whole of horrible things.
I mean,
look when they went into Vietnam. What was the US doing there? I think at this point, even Americans will now tell you, why the hell did we go into Vietnam?
Well,
so many people died for something that was pointless. It was pointless.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's quite poignant now that we're talking about this on the 20th anniversary, because in the last few days, the US government have pulled out of Kabul. They've ended a 20-year war, which is the longest war in the United States history. All right,
They've been around for very long.
And the catalyst for them going to war in Afghanistan was 9/11.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. They've gone to war. The UK on October 7th, I believe, which was a little under a month after the attacks, the UK also joined forces with the USA and they went to war over him. And it started off in Afghanistan, but it quickly spiraled off into Iraq too. Just to give you one of the reasons why it went over to Iraq. Iraq have 11% of the world's usable oil in Iraq, so great little country that. There's also the afters of, because it's the Bush administration, younger Bush, not the father. He was in charge when they did the 9/11 retaliation attacks over in Afghanistan. But the after, which went over to Iraq, the original war over in Iraq in the 90s was headed up by his father. So it's almost like he's just continuing what his father wanted to do, which is ultimately topple Saddam Hussein and his rule over there. All right, but going back to Afghanistan, the US and the UK went to war over in Afghanistan, and they went looking for Al Qaeda, because Al Qaeda was the group that Osama bin Laden was the head of. Right? They found out that Al Qaeda was being hidden and protected by the Taliban, which was the ruling party in Afghanistan at that time. So fast forward 20 years and a ridiculous amount of death. The Taliban are back in power.
Yeah, exactly. And the US has left.
And the US has bargained a deal with the Taliban to withdraw their troops. So you've just gone for a 20-year war and nothing has changed.
One of the things I saw was Biden came out to do an interview about this. And he was just like, well, it's their problem, not ours. And it's like, but you've caused a lot of this problem.
Yeah.
Not Biden personally, but the US government. Well, so video I saw the other day, which was, do you know Jesse Ventura is?
Yeah.
So he was ex-governor of Minnesota, also a professional wrestler. Weird.
Back in the 80s and 90s.
He actually did an interview on the Piers Morgan show in the US back when he was in the US, and people actually wanted Piers Morgan on TV for some reason. He didn't last very long over there anyway. And he was basically saying not necessarily that the US government had a hand in organising it, but they knew it was going to happen and they didn't stop it. Which I suppose you could say is the same thing.
Yeah.
But they didn't necessarily, organise and put the bombs there. But they knew it was going to happen.
That's the thing, isn't that as good as
and didn't stop it?
If you know something's going to happen
good as,
and you do nothing about it.
Again, whether he's correct or not, we don't know. But that's his theory.
The thing is as well that it's fucking pointless. This whole thing in Iraq, so many kids in Iraq and in Afghanistan that have been killed, and families and things that have been traumatised. It's completely unnecessary. They've been brought in and removed. Again, the Vietnam thing for nothing, right? Yeah. But do you not think it's a conflict of interest? So there was a war 20 years ago on oil and things. Do you not think maybe they've used up all their resources? This is my conspiracy now. Do you not think now maybe all the resources are used up there now? The war on oil is over. Do you not think now the war is on pharmaceuticals?
No, because there's still a lot of oil there.
But what I'm saying is they've
shifted their attention.
Their attention is no longer here. That's not where the money is. The money is now on pharmaceuticals. We don't need to be sending all our soldiers here. Let's bring them home. Let's get the Taliban back in there and they can do what the fuck they want with them. Let's focus all the money on farmers. That's a theory of mine.
Are you talking about obviously the ongoing problem with the pandemic?
Yeah, of course. Everything always sort of spirals back to that, I know, but it's just sort of a massive conflict of it's just funny how at the timing of it all happening, and let's bring them home. Let's get everything out of there.
Yeah.
And let's focus our attention on something else, which is the money maker.
Do you know a headline I saw the other day? This is kind of going over to the recent goings on there. It was an article, I can't remember where it was. It said, don't believe actually that this government in Taliban are actually going to, bring in, they're going to have women in there and that. And it's like, oh, you don't think so? You don't think it's going to be, what's the word? It's
What?
Going to be,
Don't think what?
Misogynistic.
Yeah. Oh, you don't think? Oh, okay. That's surprising, isn't
What
it?
do you mean?
Very surprising that they wouldn't have, a little bit of diversity in there. Basically, the article was saying that because obviously the US have come out of there and they've gone, we don't really believe that this government's actually going to have much diversity with women, and it's like, you don't think so?
Oh, well, of course.
That's surprising, isn't it?
But
what's the point in that
there was
headline?
talk
Of course
that
not.
the Taliban were sort of trying to open and give women rights and things like that, trying to sort of give them. But there's no way. There's no way. It's such a ridiculous thing to have happened, and to consider and think that the US government have done this to themselves for their own financial gain. It's fucking horrendous.
I think that's what doesn't.
It's scary.
But that's what doesn't compute with me.
This is what a lot of people have the same opinion as Ryan,
Yeah.
where rather than believe that a government is capable of doing that to their own people,
Yeah.
they just rather believe the official story because it's such a disgusting alternative.
Yeah, it really is.
I'd hate it, because that's the thing behind all this. Whether it's an inside job, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Obviously, it does. It's already horrific, but that would just make it even more horrific, because you think all these people. Because even if it is an inside job, these people still lost their lives.
Yeah,
44
man.
people on that plane. 2,900 people. What was the total number of?
Right, so as a result, it's 2,996 people. That doesn't mean 2,996 people died when the towers went down.
Yes,
You've got, as a result of that day, so you've got a lot of firefighters that have died through lung problems, police officers, medical personnel that were there on the day where they're breathing in all that crap that was out of the building. So that you've also got a total in the 44 people of Flight 93. You've also got a total in the hundreds of people in the Pentagon that were killed as a result of that attack. So, but altogether, as a result, the final tally is 2,996, which is just shy of 3,000.
And also, if you think that the people that would have died in the retaliation of that.
Well, that's it.
Well,
And also probably a lot of innocent, people that were just.
Well, I read this the other day. The 20-year war has resulted in, and I don't know if this is accurate, but they said it's resulted in 900,000 deaths over 20 years.
That's crazy.
Which is the best part of 1 million people, isn't it?
One of the things I was looking at the other day as well, which was mentioned, that apparently there was a lot of insider trading going on around those days.
A lot of shocking, weird stuff going on.
A lot of weird movements that
Absolutely.
would show that they knew it was happening.
Well, yeah. Well, the one of the main hijackers is Mohammed Atta. Basically, well, first of all, he was convicted. Well, he was mentioned by a Navy captain that back in 2000, so a year before, and that he was, an eligible danger to. Not
he was known
stable.
on the system
Right.
as to he's going to intrude, or there's going to be
There's
some sort
something-
of danger to America.
Yeah, there's something not right about him. There's a potential danger there. There was also $100,000 transferred from the Pakistani version of the CIA, ISI, I believe it's called, a week before 9/11.
Which is a bit shady.
Very shady. And also they were seen to be out basically. So in these extremists, the night before they commit something like this, they're allowed to go out, drink alcohol, have sex or intercourse and things like that. Do all that kind of like crazy thing the night before they commit
Kill
themselves. So they were seen
Which would
out
then
in Vegas.
Sorry, but that would then defeat the purpose of them being committing suicide, because their belief of committing suicide is that once they commit suicide, they then go to heaven to see to Allah and the is it 12 virgins?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
But that's
doesn't- yeah.
they're for doing that.
No, but
they have to
but
remain
within
a clean life.
No, but so within this organisation, they believe the night before they do this as a almost like a gift to those from.
So they
That's
can break
right.
all their own.
Yeah,
laws.
so they're allowed because they're committing something very
fucking bollocks.
because they're committing something very good to the god.
Fucking bollocks.
They're allowed that one night before they commit their offence.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in there a few shady things. There was also the case of a lot of people, or not a lot of, but select people were putting money and withdrawing money on certain shares. So United Airlines, their stock dropped, and then
They were betting on shares to fail.
yeah,
That's
so
what they were
and
doing.
it was like well above the normal levels of every day. So it was like this, whatever you call it, insider trading or whatever.
Yeah.
But somebody knew something was going on.
That's what I said. They were betting on shares. They were betting on shares to fall, and that doesn't. That doesn't happen. They were betting on shares for fall.
Especially on
to
American
fall that
Airlines.
day. Yeah.
Two of the hijackers were also living with an FBI informant in San Diego a year before the accident, a year before 9/11 as well.
Right, which is also a little bit convenient,
Yeah.
isn't it? Let's be honest.
Very
that's-
strange as well.
And what about there wasn't there the passport found of one of the terrorists?
Well, I don't know whether
Two
that's
of-
just
two of
right,
the terrorists.
whether that's just an urban myth or that's the reality.
That's what I'm saying. Is that a myth?
That's supposed to be.
Is that a legit?
I mean-
if that's legit, how the fuck?
Well, they found
In the
the
rub-
myth, whatever.
in-
They
yeah.
found two of them there, and they also found one of the passports in. I think it was in luggage that had not made it onto. A flight,
Okay,
connected
well that's
to a
more
flight or
viable.
something.
That's
Okay,
more
yeah,
viable.
yeah,
If it
yeah,
didn't,
yeah.
if it wasn't in the explosion,
Yeah.
okay, that's possible. But the others, if the plane, you saw the planes blow up, how is a passport going to float down and then somebody finds it on the street, right? Another thing that I found was quite interesting. The day after that it happened, a lot of the Saudis that were in cahoots with the Bush family from the Carlyle group and stuff like that, and also members of the Bin Laden family. And this is when the entire country had a no-fly zone. There was no flights in the air the day after.
Well, during
But-
it stopped. It stopped. It stopped during after the second
yeah.
plane.
They
They
brought
stopped
all flights down.
which is the
Yeah.
first time it's ever happened. So
Yeah.
that stopped.
But
all
the day
flights,
after,
in and out.
but the day after, when there was no flights in the air, somehow members of the Bin Laden family were flown out and Saudis were flown out, obviously under the instruction of the government,
higher powers,
right?
yeah, that be.
So what's happened there?
What do you mean? What's not Osama bin Laden? What do you mean? The
Bin Laden family.
The
Bin Laden
Saudis.
families. You've got Saudis,
Yeah.
which certain people from the Saudi community, they were in cahoots, right? So they were connected by business ventures and stuff like
Yeah.
that through the Carlyle group. Now,
Yeah.
the Carlyle group is a group of very, very wealthy people that they do certain
Business with-
investments
yeah,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. And the Bin Laden's, I believe it was his stepbrother or something like that, was actually in a Carlisle conference whilst the attacks were happening with the older Bush. This is what I've heard anyway, but it all doesn't add up. It just seems a bit incestuous.
Also, if you were trying to hide something, for example, George Bush, you're committing something absolutely horrid. What's the first thing you'd want the public, where you would want the public to see you at that time? You'd want them to see you doing something really nice, friendly. He was at a school doing a book reading with children.
Yeah,
Right,
it's true.
which is not
That's
what
been
a president.
paraded,
Presidents
actually,
don't do that every day. That's not an everyday thing. So why was he conveniently doing something really sweet and nice when something really bad happened?
Yeah, and he sat
so
there-
straight away they go, oh no, well he's actually reading books to children. He's just to take the eyes
and
off him
there's-
straight
yeah, but
away.
there's footage of when he gets informed
He
of it
gets
happening.
informed, and then he gets informed of the second plane.
Yeah,
He comes twice.
because he sits there for 9 minutes not doing anything.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you know the thing is, right, to completely flip it on the other side, like I watched a doc, I can't remember the Irish guy's name, he's a comedian, stand-up comedian. He took 5 conspiracy theorists, each with their own individual conspiracy. One was to do with, it's a demolition, so he took them to a demolitions expert. In America, he took them over there, and this demolitions expert spoke to them and showed them. One of the experiments that he showed them was basically, if you put it, I probably can't do it with that. Basically, there was a can of Coke. He said, look, if you press down on that, you can't push it down. But if you push a dent in it, push it down, it will fall. So okay, that's sort of debunked. Then there was another one with regards to the hole in the
Pentagon.
Yeah, the hole in the Pentagon. He took it there, and she just wasn't. What was there was one. I can't. There's like 5 different conspiracies. There's loads of different conspiracies. I can't think of all of them.
One of the calls were fake. That was one of the other ones.
The calls were fake. Yeah. So there was a woman that got taken to the woman that lost her son and spoken to her son, and she explained like this is my son, and it's people like that I feel sorry for. Do you know what I mean? And again, like the pilots. The Americans have had to train. So the Americans have had to train pilots to fly into their own. Is that possible?
You know what?
Do you know what I mean? To fly aircraft into their own building, is it possible?
No,
Do you know what
I don't believe American citizens flew a plane into that building.
Well, you know what?
No, but I mean, so the Americans.
There's going back to that Pakistani CIA version, ISI. They were working alongside the CIA.
Yeah.
Right, and they come up with this facility called Jeddah, something like that.
Jeddah.
And they were giving Middle Eastern citizens basically visas, US visas under the table. Okay, it put people into. Right, so straight away that's a bit fishy. And so you're saying about will American citizens fly into their own buildings? No, because they got connections with.
They're terrorists.
Yeah,
they're
they even had terrorists come over to the US for training. But why are they even communicating with them in that sense?
It is just baffling. It's so ridiculously baffling, and it's like. But there's so many questions there that go, well, actually, but then I don't want to look like a balmy bastard. Do you know what I mean?
I think the problem with this is both sides of the argument tend to be a little bit volatile with each other. Yeah. Like you'll say it's an inside job, the other person say it's well, and then you'll be like, oh, you're stupid for thinking it isn't, and they'll go, you're stupid for thinking it is. I think probably, to be honest, both sides have got a
lot of weight. Both sides have got a lot of weight.
This is the problem. We don't know what happened. But then, unless you were actually there and you know exactly what happened, because the problem, I suppose, the problem that a lot of people have that will call you a conspiracy theorist is, well, you're not an you're not a fucking.
But that's it, and you're a conspiracy theorist. That's what you are.
I'm an average bloke. Yeah. And I take offence that I'm being labelled as a conspiracy theorist in the fact that I've just got genuine questions that for me, as an average person out there, doesn't add up. Yeah. It just seems a bit fishy. Yeah. Now, the NIST, that organisation that's done all these investigations, for me, as a normal person, not an expert, their explanations don't sound right. They just don't. They just don't sound right. And
they've been backed up by Bush as well. They've been sent in by Bush.
To investigate yourself. I mean, how are you going to get a fair investigation?
It is a little bit dodgy. I mean, we're never, ever going to know, but it is good to talk, and it is always good to bring this topic up, especially on like the 20th anniversary. I think it's good to sort of have these sort of questions about it, because otherwise it could just get forgotten. It won't. It
won't be forgotten.
But there's always that thing that in 100 years' time it may come out and go, well, actually, this is what happened, because it's not as relevant anymore, and that generation of people that went through it, they're not here anymore. So in 100 years, it go, well, actually, it come out that it was happened to do. Imagine if that happens.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the main thing to look at it is just a lot of people that it was a horrible thing. I mean, whatever happened, it is a horrible thing. Yeah, a lot of people died. Obviously, also we don't even just have that. You have London as well. Bombings there. A lot of people died there. Madrid, that was a big one as well. Yeah, that was awful. So it's just.
But again, So did that happen? Was that a terrorist part of a branch off the inside job from.
Well, there's a lot of
things.
groups within.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just feel this war on terror that we've now had for 20 years, I don't think we're any better for it, and I don't think we've evolved
Well,
or
no,
got
it was-
forward anyway.
I'm still scared. I'm personally, I'm still scared
You've still
to
got
fly in a plane.
You've still got your fear there. You've still got different ethnicities massively divided over it.
Well, that's really what this was all planned for. Like, they wanted to create fear, right, in order to get the support to go to war.
Yeah.
Right. So straight away after the 9/11, you had so many Muslims being attacked for being a Muslim, right, because they're getting related straight to that, right. So then basically what they plan to do is working because it's creating that divide, which is not right.
That's also a horrible side of it.
Also, it wasn't even worthwhile because I personally think the reason they did all this, they wanted to go to Iraq. And it turns out the information given was incorrect anyway. They weren't stockpiling missiles. And it's just like, all those people died for
I
what?
suppose one of the horrible sides of it that we don't always think of is the hatred that this has caused towards people that are from those countries. From
Yeah.
Well, no,
you know,
yeah, at the moment we're going
that
through
are
a phase.
innocent, that wouldn't
But
do these kind of attacks.
before then, it was someone to blame, right? So before then, it was the Irish. The Irish were the terrorists. Because you had, in the 80s, you had the Birmingham
IRA.
bombings and the IRA.
Yeah.
So it was, if you were Irish, you were criticised as being a terrorist.
Yeah.
So then you had 9/11, which was then, well, do you know what? Now let's blame someone else. So
Well,
Yeah, they always
do
need
you
a
know what I
bad
mean?
guy.
They always need a bad
'cause
guy.
You went through the Russians for a while
Yeah.
with the bad guys.
Yeah.
The Irish, like you
Irish,
say, bad guys. Now all of a sudden we've got just Islamophobia everywhere in the
Yeah.
world.
Well, in Spain, if you look at Spain, you've got the ETA from the Basque Country.
Yeah.
They're still vilified for it, and you know that was. I'll tell you what. And to be honest, also if you look at it, that was caused by what Franco did to that area of the country.
Yeah.
So it's always just domino effects.
So
of what's happening.
it's born from fear. You're absolutely right, Nick.
But I also think as well, the security we have in airports now, that should have been in place
Oh, we always should
when
have
airports
that.
were
We didn't have the
designed.
technology back then, though.
Yeah, but
should
it's
still
not.
have
It's only
more security,
metal
because
detector.
before-
Don't take that many fluids on
Just
board.
take what you want on the plane, didn't it? Even.
Yeah, you could just.
Yeah.
It should have been. They should have had stronger security from day one. From the minute
100%.
public people could travel on a plane, they should have had a higher level of security.
100%.
Yeah, I think obviously we could go on, but I think it's probably a good time to sort of call it quits on this episode. This event will obviously be hugely covered over the coming weeks because of the 20th anniversary. We are grateful to be able to put our 2 pence in, but I think I kind of already know where you stand on this, but I just want to reiterate. So, do you think it was an inside job?
Yeah, I think it was the American government attacking themselves, which is just unfathomable. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think it's they've, like Kane said, they've attacked themselves to create the motive in order to go into war.
For the real end game.
Yeah, they wanted to go there.
I think my stance is still that I don't think it was, although I don't think you guys are stupid for thinking it is, if you know what I mean. Like, I understand you.
There's some reasonable questions.
Right. I don't mind people questioning things. Obviously, of course you can, because if not, then it's fucking boring. Wouldn't it? But you do. I still don't think it was, because I err on the side that with people that evil, I suppose they could be. Of course they can. But no, I don't think it was an inside job. And I think one thing we should... Well, no, I'll end it there. That's
fair enough. So yeah, I agree. I think it was orchestrated by the Bush administration, and I'm just deeply saddened that many people that day died, and also the after effects as well with the 20-year war. Many innocent people died, and it appears for nothing.
Yeah.
That's it for this time, folks, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.